Hello and welcome to this news hour. I'm Daniel Kasahun with the news. The new African magazine has named Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed as one of the 100 most influential Africans in 2020. It recalled that the Prime Minister of Ethiopia was one of the favorite names on its list last year. He had won the Nobel Peace Prize, brokered peace with Eritrea, launched a whole raft of reform in his country, and had set about to unite the various ethnic groups and religions that make up Ethiopia. It was smile all around, it said. WHO Chief Dr. Tedros Adhanom, CEO of the Ethiopian Airlines, told the Mariam and Admasu Taddese, head of the Trade and Development Bank, are also among the new African 100 most influential Africans in 2020. The Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister of Ethiopia, Demeke Mekonnen, met with ambassadors and representatives of members of human and resilience donor groups. He appreciated member countries of the group for their support and briefed the ambassadors on the ongoing humanitarian activities in the Tigray region and the results achieved thus far. He said food items, commodities, and medical supplies are being provided in the region to address the needs of the beneficiaries. As agreed between the government of Ethiopia and the United Nations resident coordinator, and using the existing coordination mechanism, the provision of humanitarian assistance is going as planned, he said, recalling also the colossal destruction caused by infrastructure by TPLF. Demeke briefed the ambassadors on the daunting task of reconstruction that's now underway, with telecommunication lines being restored in almost all parts of the region and financial institutions resumed their operations. The interim administration is also working tirelessly in making sure that different levels of the administration of the region provide the necessary services, including engaging the community to effectively respond to the development needs of the people in the region, he said. The ambassadors have appreciated the government of Ethiopia for taking the initiative to brief them on current issues in detail. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia says it is in Ethiopia's best interest to amicably solve issues lingering along the Ethio-Sudanese border. The ministry has also reiterated Ethiopia's commitment to concluding tripartite negotiations on its grand dam with good faith and fair approach. Spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, Ambassador Dina Mufti, made the remarks in the ministry's bi-weekly press briefing. Kasaun Chani reports.
The spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, Ambassador Dina Mufti, has briefed the media on some of the latest developments in the country, featuring such the law enforcement operation in Tigray, the current Ethiopia-Sudan border dispute, and tripartite negotiations on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Regarding the border issues with Sudan, Ambassador Dina said the current problem on the party the Sudanese side is that they are wrongly occupying the border areas of the two friendly nations. The spokesperson accentuated, however, the fact that Ethiopia strongly believes in solving the issues via amicable negotiations. When it comes to the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the spokesperson told the press that Ethiopia will not resort to deals that will in any way restrict Earth's rights to using the Nile waters.
The resumption of the trilateral negotiations on the GERD, it was chaired by the Minister for International Cooperation of South Africa, which is the current chairperson of the African Union. Both ministers of water and foreign affairs were part of these delegations. They discussed on the way forward by the modalities presented to them by the experts that were recruited by the African Union, and the experts have presented the modalities to continue their discussions, and they discussed on the modalities. Though these modalities were accepted with conditions by our side, the Sudanese side also have accepted that modalities with certain recommendations but that modalities have been entirely rejected, flatly rejected by Egyptian side.
Dina also emphasized that Ethiopia is committed to concluding the negotiation with good faith to reach an agreement today and tomorrow, hoping to resolve the long-running dispute over the huge dam on the Abai River.
And so therefore, finally, it was decided by the ministers the expertise of the respective three countries have to continue on identifying and sorting out the differences that have been registered so far and the consensus, so that they will be presented to the coming meeting. This meeting will take place on the coming Sunday. This is how it evolved with regard to the trilateral discussions.
The Nile, the world's longest river, is a lifeline supplying both water and electricity to the 10 countries it traverses, as to Ambassador Dina. As per the spokesperson, various diplomatic activities have been undertaken in Ethiopia throughout the week, and these were pivotal to boost investment and relations with other countries.
With the economic diplomacy things, there are two things. One is an image building exercise among Ethiopians. Networking is abroad. This is by way of presenting Ethiopia to the rest of the world. The other was actually a discussion held with various ambassadors.
Legal experts note that TPLF's inhuman and criminal activities to be on the list of terrorist groups officially is a task left to authorized government bodies. They have pointed out the TPLF clique has also been used to infringing constitutional principles and provisions over the past 2.5 years, they recalled. Emmanuel Jorge reports.
Following the law enforcement operation by the federal government in the state of Tigray, the criminal TPLF clique has been deposed and now peace and calm is being restored in the state. In the meantime, Ethiopians across the country have been asking as to why the government hasn't labeled the TPLF as a terrorist group after all what the clique had done on innocent civilians and properties of the nation. The legal expert Mesembe Tasefa answers the question.
If you think on pragmatic terms and what they did to compromise the national security, national sovereignty and integrity of the Ethiopian state, they have done everything I think that any terrorist group can do. When you consider these things, I think people were pushing for proscribing TPLF as a terrorist organization. But if you are a policymaker, obviously, if you are in the business of statecraft, there are so many serious things that come with proscription of TPLF as a terrorist, or any other group for that matter, as a terrorist organization. So I would say the cautiousness from the state, for me, is not based on moral grounds, because some people have been questioning, why is not the government doing this, you know? It's not out of ill will, let's say, but rather based on pragmatic reasons of the complexity that it creates. And also the very proscription of political groups as terrorist groups had also a negative effect, as you know, because many peaceful political groups in Ethiopia were also, I'm not talking about TPLF, but as a matter of principle, proscribing a political group as a terrorist organization is not as simple as many say, for me.
Mentioning that the TPLF has been defying the federal system, especially for the last 2.5 years, executive member of Ethiopian Lawyers Association Theodros Getachew also explains the procedures taken to pronounce TPLF as a terrorist based on the revised anti-terrorism law of Ethiopia.
According to the newly revised the anti-terrorism law of Ethiopia, it's the power of the House of People's Representative to proscribe an organization as a terrorist or revoke a terrorist organization from that list. But the initiation should start from the Attorney General. That's how the law designed the procedure. The Attorney General might make a recommendation to the Council of Ministers about a certain organization which they believe it should be proscribed as a terrorist organization. And the Council of Ministers will review that recommendation from the Attorney General, and if it believes it's necessary, it will send the recommendation to the House of People's Representative so as to declare or pronounce that organization as a terrorist.
Theodros added that even though what they committed was beyond that done by terrorists, specific concerned bodies are authorized to categorize them as a terrorist group.
Now, when it comes to TPLF, there have been series of reports, especially for the last 2.5 years. There have been series of reports that has been announced against that specific organization, especially the one that happened in the last two months and something. Well, they could amount to anything, but the responsibility of starting the procedure, proscribing this organization as a terrorist organization, will be the role of the Attorney General, and then the Council of Ministers, and then the House of People's Representatives.
It is recalled that the incumbent took law enforcement military action against deposed TPLF clique following its cowardly act of attacking the indomitable North Command in the back.
Ethiopia's effort Ethiopia's effort to attract foreign direct investment and secure foreign debt may get into jeopardy if the nation fails to combat money laundering and terrorist financing activities. The remark was made by the country's Financial Intelligence Center, which is in charge of tracing and intercepting such financial crimes and associated predicate offenses in collaboration with pertinent government institutions. Solomon Danye presents the full story as follows.
The majority of African countries are grappling with money laundering, terrorist financing, tax fraud, tax evasion, illicit financial flow, and related financial crimes. These crimes are supposed to worsen the lives of the poor in the continent, while few criminals are rolling in dough. Ethiopia is not an exception in this regard. The country's financial integrity is being abused by people and institutions who tirelessly work on misleading legal financial procedures. Though the country established a financial intelligence center years back to deal with money laundering and terrorist financing, the matter seeks a coordinated effort with the public and other government organs, said Mulugeta Temasgen, monitoring and assessment team leader at the center.
እነዚህ ወንጀሎችን በጠንካራ ሂደት ካልተከታተልናቸው
If we do not effectively intercept such financial crimes, the integrity of our financial institutions will be jeopardized. They could not be able to work with international financial organizations. Foreign direct investment will also be at risk. Even the dates and grants that we receive from the World Bank and IMF would be suspended. There is an international financial sanction that comes with failure to arrest money laundering and associated crimes. We were among the blacklisted countries a few years back. It's been very recently that we managed to clear our name from the list. If we don't keep our pace, there is still a possibility for the nation to fall back to that list again.
ክለኛ መንገድ ጠቃሚ ያለውና
Financial Crimes Analysis Team Leader at the Center, Gabayo Gudeta, for his part, underscored that supporting and modernizing the Financial Intelligence Center of the country with adequate manpower and resources is critical.
በተለይ አንዳንድ ኬዞች ጋር የተያዘ ማስቆም ጭምር
The center did not have institutional independence to exercise its rights in the previous times. There were always boundaries for the untouchables. It was not free from political interferences. The center did also lack adequate manpower and resources. After the recent reform, however, the center has been able to regain its independence so as to investigate financial crimes.
በአንድም በሌላም የመግፋት ነገሮች ነበሩ።
The experts also underlined that equipping the center with modern and effective technology would save the day as financial crimes are being conducted in a very sophisticated manner.
The Inter-Religious Council has urged media outlets in Ethiopia to help address issues of fake news and disinformation as part of the efforts being made to maintain peace and harmony in the East African nation. This came at a discussion forum held by the Council and different media organizations. The event shed the spotlight on the fact that media outlets need to have the lion's share in the fight against this dissemination of fake news and disinformation internationally being propagated by individuals and groups bent on dismantling Ethiopia. The role of media is therefore irreplaceable in ensuring peace, unity and harmony among the people and supporting democracy in Ethiopia. It was pointed out. You're watching at this news hour. The vibe of Christmas, or Ganna, as it is known here in Ethiopia, has already begun to be felt in Addis Ababa and across Ethiopia. Here in the capital, sellers and buyers have been busy all day bargaining the reasonability of the current market price of live animals in Addis Ababa. Ganna has a very colorful vibe among the followers of Christianity, where meat takes the dominant role in the Christmas feast. So you are very likely to experience a hectic market and price fluctuation before the actual holiday falls every year. However, both the supply and demand sides seem to be okay as we speak, with the current price of an ox, for instance, ranging from 2,000 birr to 35,000 birr, in one of the livestock markets in Addis Ababa. Accordingly, customers say no price increment was shown compared to last year's market. In the meantime, markets are strongly urged to implement all government guidelines to stay safe from the global pandemic.
Policy Matters is a conversation platform which aims to provide reasoned analysis and context to the activities, reforms, and policies of the federal government of Ethiopia. Exploring various reforms the government is undertaking, the conversation platform aspires to enable nuanced and informed understanding.
Why was policy reform necessary? Which started out with the homegrown economic reform and now is the 10-year perspective plan. Why was it necessary?
The growth that Ethiopia has been registering for the last decade or so lacked quality. The 10-year plan envisions Ethiopia to be an African beacon of prosperity by 2030, and having this vision at the top, it has this overarching goal of ensuring shared prosperity, prosperity in all its dimensions, where every citizen gets his or share of the cake.
We both know that the private sector has not been allowed to grow.
Now the government really understands the bumpy road that the private sector have been through.
How do you plan on then getting growth and achieving some of these fantastic ambitions that you've laid down to be achieved through the private sector?
So the private sector should really come into the driver's seat. We have these interim strategies, for instance, the public-private partnership. So it's really working well, especially in areas of energy and infrastructure. We want to expand that, of course, to other sectors too. So that would really augment the capacities of the private sector.
Still in the news transmission, the recognition of Little Ethiopia by the Washington DC Council will beef up the tourism industry among the Ethiopian diaspora. Ethio-American political scientist Professor Brooke Hailu made the remark in an interview with ETV English. He has congratulated Ethiopians and friends of Ethiopia on the recognition, which was realized after 2 decades. Sfarolago reports.
Ethiopian American communities in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area are celebrating the recognition of Little Ethiopia by the council members of Washington, D.C. In an exclusive interview with ETV English, Professor of Political Science Brooke Hailu has expressed his congratulations to Ethiopians and friends of Ethiopia.
Certain part of Washington, D.C., 9th Street and U, if you guys know that the whole area around that area, 9th Street, U Street up to 12th Street, that neighborhood now is officially renamed as Little Ethiopia. And all of us are thrilled and happy. All of us are really happy. It took the Ethiopian community 20 years to bring into success the certain part of districts, the historical district of Washington, D.C. be named.
As one of the contributors of the recognition, Professor Brooke recounts the process which spanned 2 decades.
I was involved in that from 2001 to 2004. I was at the time a senior diplomat of Ethiopia stationed in Washington, D.C., and I was working hand in hand with the Ethiopian community. Some members are still there. I could name names. The idea died down. I left to Europe on another assignment after that, and I tried to follow what was going on. Between, I believe, 2005, 2004 until 2009, the idea was hanging up in the air. And guess what? The committee once again reconstituted itself. In 2009, they tried again, and they succeeded in 2020, December. That's remarkable. That's remarkable.
Similar efforts will be made to scale up the move to other parts of the country with large Ethiopian communities, he added.
Success is sweet, but the road might be bumpy. And we are glad that now, for always, any Ethiopian, future generation, and you guys come to America, you have a place to visit, and all tourists to visit called Little Ethiopia. And one last point on that, it's the second city. Los Angeles succeeded before Washington, D.C. in shorter a time. If you go to Los Angeles, there is a neighborhood called Little Ethiopia there. And we want to continue as a wish as an Ethiopian American in Seattle, in Atlanta, in Denver, in North Carolina, in New York and other places.
The recognition of Little Ethiopia by the Council will further bolster and strengthen the social and cultural ties between Addis Ababa and Washington, D.C., he pointed out.